This is your Barbados Today News update for Tuesday, July 24th. So glad you can join us. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. Our top story, 3 crew members are said to be assisting police with their investigations into a drug bust which occurred aboard a Barbados-registered vessel in the Bridgetown Port around 1 p.m. yesterday. At this stage, lawmen are tight-lipped about the investigations into the matter, which is said to be at a very sensitive stage. However, Barbados Today understands that the marijuana seizure occurred aboard the Ecstasy and involves at least one prominent businessman. Police are seeking the public's help in locating 2 wanted men. They are 27-year-old Kima Mario da Costa Green of Lower Appleways Tenantry, St. George, and 22-year-old Romano Anthony Drayton of Martinique Road, Government Hill, St. Michael. Green is of dark complexion, slim build, 5 feet 8 inches tall, has a large nose, thick lips, average ears and full eyes. He also has a mole on his left cheek and the word outlaw is tattooed on his right forearm. Drayton is dark brown in complexion, slim build, approximately 5 feet 2 inches tall, has a medium nose, large mouth, small ears and average-sized eyes. He has the words Wild Bill tattooed on his right arm and Shamario on his left arm. Anyone with knowledge of their whereabouts is asked to contact the Major Crime Unit at 430-7193, Police Emergency at 211, or any police station. In other news, like their counterparts at the University of the West Indies, students of the Barbados Community College and the Eardiston Teachers Training College will not have to foot the bill for their tuition fees. Government today reiterated its commitment to paying the costs for tertiary students, but with conditions. Minister of Education Santia Bradshaw set out the government's policies in a ministerial statement delivered shortly before Parliament adjourned for lunch.
Indeed, it is only logical and fair. The government of Barbados remains committed to its vision of having a graduate in every household. And it is on this basis that this government holds the position that the said provision offered to Barbadian students at the University of the West Indies should also be offered to other Barbadian tertiary students undertaking undergraduate programs at both the Barbados Community College and the Eardiston Training College with immediate effect. However, we must bear in mind the current state of our economy and the reduced scope that government has for spending. And therefore, all fees paid by Barbadians for the 2018-2019 academic year at either of these institutions will be credited in full during the course of the upcoming academic year 2018-2019.
Bradshaw also cleared the air on the payment of tuition costs for UE students.
The government of Barbados will pay directly to the University of the West Indies tuition fees for Barbadians enrolled in undergraduate courses of study. Government, however, will only cover the tuition fees for a second undergraduate degree if Barbadian students gain at least upper second class honors or if the second undergraduate degree will be of significant relevance to national development. As happened previously, we will pay tuition fees for Barbadian students pursuing a legal educational certificate granted by the Council of Legal Education of the Commonwealth Caribbean. Government will also pay the tuition fees for Barbadians pursuing postgraduate studies if they gain at least upper second class honors in the first degree or if the postgraduate studies will be of significant relevance to national development.
All students will, however, be required to give back by performing community service. Minister Bradshaw was quick to point out that government has a plan in place to pay the tuition costs. She explained that savings from the reprofiling of the debt will help to fund the costs. Barbadians are still not buying into house insurance despite the catastrophic destruction of Hurricanes Irma and Maria last year. So says the Chief Executive Officer of Amasi United Insurance, Randy Graham. Speaking at a roundtable discussion entitled Moving Forward After the 2017 Hurricane Season, he said there's no increase in new policies, and he's suggesting that the devastating impact of disasters has still not hit home for Barbadians.
Barbados has not really had a mass destruction in a long time, so it's difficult to see the pictures on the TV and relate it back to reality, the destruction and the disruption to life that it actually causes. So, I'm not certain that I can say that seeing, Dominica being damaged extensively or sort of damaged in other territories caused Barbadians to rush to go and buy property insurance, because it still doesn't hit home once the TV goes off. Living in the reality of life disruption is the best thing. When we saw the Eastern Caribbean property insurance consumption is per capita probably much higher than it is in Barbados right now, simply because they have lived through it and they know the benefit of getting the financial response, so they have done it.
Graham expressed concern that too many homeowners were under-insuring their homes and that this could pose serious problems when disaster strikes.
A lot of the insurance starts with the loan. So you build your house, you start the loan, mortgage is 30 years. After you're 15, you tend to have the insurance value to the same value that you had when you took the loan out. But the rebuild cost of that has not gone through inflation, has gone through increases in cost. If you try to rebuild the same house now that you started 15 years ago, it's going to be double or triple times the cost. So if you kept the insurance value the same, you will, in short, find yourself short, and that's the reason for a lot of the underinsurance.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
We continue with news from the region. The appeal filed by the Trinidad and Tobago's Chief Justice challenging an investigation launched against him by the Law Association of Trinidad and Tobago into allegations of misconduct came to an abrupt end at the Privy Council in London, England yesterday. The 5 British law lords who were presiding over the appeal indicated to attorneys they did not need to hear any submissions from lawyers of the association in response to those made by the Chief Justice's legal representatives. They then reserved their decision to a date that is yet to be set. Joel Brown of TV6 News reports.
The Privy Council, based in London, is Trinidad and Tobago's highest court of appeal. Chief Justice Ivor Archie filed an appeal to the Privy Council against the ruling by the local appeal court in May, which overturned the ruling of Justice Nadia Kangaloo in the High Court that the Law Association did not have the legal authority to investigate him on allegations of misconduct in office. Chief Justice Archie was not present for the hearing held at the Privy Council building at Parliament Square in London. Queen's Counsel Philip Havers and Senior Counsel Ian Benjamin presented the Chief Justice's case before the law lords. Senior Counsel Christopher Hamill-Smith represented the Law Association. Lady Hale, the President of the Supreme Court of the UK, stated, quote, Mr. Hamill-Smith, despite the elegance of Mr. Havers and Mr. Benjamin, the board has given this matter very careful consideration over the short adjournment and reached the conclusion that we don't need to call upon you, end quote. One Privy Council justice said, this committee established by the association plainly has considerable limitations on its ability to ascertain the objective facts. He then asked the Queen's Counsel Havers, quote, if the real concern is that the association may publish the results of its inquiries and because of the respect in which that body is held, that would have a damaging effect on the Chief Justice.
On the international scene, the Greece Prime Minister has described the death of 74 people killed by wildfires as an unspeakable tragedy. The wildfires swept through a resort, trapping people in cars and on the edge of cliffs. Some people were forced to jump for survival.
The youngest victim, a 6-month-old baby. Families found children clasped in a last embrace as they tried to flee the flames. Emergency crews discovered one group of 26 victims, some children lying close together. It seems they'd been trying to find an escape route, but couldn't make it in time. The fire broke out in the small community of Mati, just east of Athens. Reuters' Deborah Kivrikosaios is there.
There were hot, intense, furious winds that came barreling across this region. It is a region that is lush. It is full of pine trees, full of pine cones, which if lit are like flaming grenades that can carry flames farther away and ignite more fires. People were found next to their vehicles, next to their motorcycles, trying to open the door, trying to mount their motorcycles, which means they must have seen the fire. They were rushing to leave the area, and they never made it.
Coast Guard vessels and other boats rescued almost 700 people who managed to get to the shoreline. This is a popular spot for Greek holidaymakers, particularly for pensioners and children attending summer camps. Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras cut short a trip to Bosnia on Monday. He was seen rushing to an emergency meeting on the blaze. The country has asked for help from its European Union partners.
And that's news. But for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.tv. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, and like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media and bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. Good evening.